people being able to reasonably disagree on that, I think is the end of this country probably. It's probably why I might be looking to leave after this election cycle. Because I think that people just, yes.
Tom Bilyeu had on Destiny to debate free speech. This is an interesting debate because of just how out of touch Destiny is from reality. He actually argues against free speech, and Tom has to defend it. Let's take a look at some highlights and discuss.
I don't want anybody to get to decide what is true in a preemptive strike kind of way, where this speech is now not available because some people are not going to be able to parse through that data. And so for me, that's where like I am prepared to live in a world where things very much do not go the way that I think that they should, because I am so terrified of people being able to say top down to protect you from dumb people, whatever. Of course, they're not going to say dumb, but to protect you, we're going to make sure that we get rid of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, because it ends up being bad. So, but it feels like while you agree with it at the extreme, you said there are heavy-handed things that you would want to do because misinformation could be potentially destroying our society.
Yeah. Absolutely. But that's different than keeping people from voting, I would say, right?
Right.
Conceptually, it maps onto who identifies a dumb voter could be similar to who identifies misinformation potentially. But the issue right now is that the majority of the people in the United States of America that carry forward that really strict free speech banner do so maliciously. They do it as a cancer, and they sneak in as a parasite to pretend that freedom of speech is what they really want. But what they really want is just the ability to lie with impunity and to do it for huge sums of cash. And that is right now what is happening. It's not becoming a problem. It's not going to become a problem. It is a problem, and it has been a problem. And it's such that even if we were too heavy-handed in a media censorship environment, that would be preferable to where we are right now, because the area that we're at right now is deplorable. And there are too many people, the Candace Owens, the Tim Pools, the Joe Rogans, the Robert Malones, the Lex Friedmans, these people who are, saying oh, we just want all these people to come and have conversations. They're not there to have conversations. They're there to lie with impunity.
Why should anyone get to decide what is true and what's not? We all know that we can't trust these organizations at the very top. Giving them more power is a very dumb idea. Anything these people disagree with, they call a lie.
Would you propose that there's actually a score? Like, hey, you've misstepped this many times, but you got these things right, so your blended score is you're a B-.
Sure, maybe something of that. But the problem with where we're at right now with the media environment is I'll say on the conservative side, any type of scorekeeper or fact checker is inherently seen as biased. So that immediately fails with half the country.
Yeah, I mean, so skipping forward to see where we disagree, my thing will be anytime that you're going to put that sort of check on the system, you're saying somebody actually is able to view the world objectively correct and isn't caught in a frame of reference. So my view on the world is that quite literally nobody lives in an objectively true world. We are all doing our best to approximate the truth. And that is why there's always these gaps. Because I think while it is not impossible for humans to get to ground truth is physics, right? So once you understand a thing, it unlocks abilities. It unlocks GPS was unlocked because we got past Newtonian physics, which felt like it was an objectively true version of reality, only to find out that it's not. And now physicists are saying that even Einsteinian physics is not objectively true, that it's a good approximation. It's better. It gave us GPS, but it unlocked the power of the atom. But there's something beyond it that we don't yet understand. And so once I get to that and I say objective reality is the number of photons that are reflecting off of you and landing on my eye, it's a big math equation in light spectrum. But I don't interface with the world like that. I interface basically through a GUI, right? So I am already dealing with rules of thumb, approximation, narrative, all of that. And so for me, it becomes a question of, can anyone actually be trusted to say, you're the person that knows what is objectively true? And therefore, since you're uniquely, maybe not solely, but uniquely able to determine what is true, you can now give people a score or whatever and begin to shut down the people that get a low score. That's what scares me, that when it meets reality, it's just never going to hold up.
The answer is absolutely not. Nobody can be trusted to determine what is true and start shutting down people that they think tell lies. It would be all fun and games while the people you agree with are in charge of this extreme government overreach. However, if the people you disagree with are in charge, they will shut you down and close you out.
And so many of these people do it, that they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie. And then the frustrating thing is, not calling you out, but because I used to be part of this too, is that people will come forth to defend these people under the guise of free speech. And these people are just parasites. They don't actually care about free speech. They're just using it to sell lies. They go, yeah, free speech is important. And that's why blah, 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 blah. And then they just lie, lie, lie. And it's like, this is a very frustrating environment to live in, because I agree conceptually, again, with your world that it is kind of scary to have somebody come in and say, well, should you be able to say this or that? Although we do to some extent. I can't go on TV and tell you to drink poison, right? I would get in trouble, right? But right now, the lies are so outlandish that it's destroyed. We live in different realities right now in the United States.
I agree with that. I think what I disagree with, I don't think that is because of the nature of people going out and wielding lies. I look at all of the facts laid out before me in terms of how to deal with the 2024 election. And I make the decision that, even though I hate that this is the decision, that I'm going to vote for Trump. You look at that and think, yo, what the fuck? Like, how can people, like, are their brains broken? And so the reason that I come to that, obviously it's multivariate and I can walk through it, but you can, if you go look at like all the January 6th stuff, for instance, I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing to argue. But I look at all of that and go, if you could show me that Trump was legitimately lying, that he knew that the election, that he had lost fair and square, and he was still doing these things, does that completely discredit him? And so, yes, at that point, I would say if you had a mind reading device and you knew that, that would completely change my take on it, because I walk away from watching or hearing the calls of him literally on your stream, him doing the calls and everything. I walk away going, I think he actually believed it.
Most people agree with you, Tom. They voted for Trump and against Kamala for a reason. The Democrats have failed time and time again. The only reason they won in 2020 was because of the COVID virus.
Now, whether he's a fool or not to believe it is a totally different question. Whether he's completely delusional is a totally different question. But if you could show me into his heart, no, he for real is lying. Okay, cool. That changes my perspective. Now, I would want you to point said mind reading device at all the fears that I have over on the left, because I want to know what's going on in their hearts as well. But I have a very definable thing that would allow me to change my mind. But I don't think for a second that you're WWEing any of this either. I think you really believe it's obvious that he's lying. How could anybody believe anything differently? So my thing is, given that the only heart I can see inside is my own, and I know that I'm not making it up, and I know that, and it'll be easy because I'm sure you'll push me on a lot of this stuff and you'll see which ways I'll break and go one way or the other. But I feel that good faith people of a certain level of intellect can look at that and walk away with different views, and I want them to. And when I look at putting hardcore controls in to make sure that we account for disinformation, that you make the world worse. Like, I'm way more terrified of that than I am it being more difficult for the public to think through what is true than I am the world where we're being told what is true.
Gotcha. I think that the thought process that you have right now in terms of people being able to reasonably disagree on that, I think is the end of this country probably. It's probably why I might be looking to leave after this election cycle. Because I think that people just... Yes.
If we had a mind-reading device to know what the Democratic elite are really thinking, our heads would probably explode. These people are corrupted to the bone. The US would be much better if all people trying to get rid of free speech left. If you enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe to help my channel grow. Thank you.